Drängt Präsident Stambolic und reißt die Macht an sich. Milosevic propagiert von nun an den Kampf um den Kosovo bis zum Endsieg. Anfang 1989 kommt es wieder zu Zusammenstößen. 24 Menschen sterben. Trotz aller Proteste entziehen jugoslawische Regierung und Parlament dem Kosovo den Unabhängigkeitsstatus. Eine Änderung der Verfassung überlässt von nun an Serbien die Oberhoheit über Polizei, Justiz und Spitzenposten in Partei und Verwaltung. Serbisch wird wieder Amtssprache. Die albanischen Minister der Regierung Kosovo treten aus Protest zurück. 1990 erklären 114 albanischstämmige Abgeordnete im Untergrund die Unabhängigkeit ihrer Republik. Ihr Führer ist Ibrahim Rugova. Er wird im Mai 1992 zum Präsidenten gewählt. Die Serben fahren mit ihrer Anti-Albaner-Politik fort. 1,8 Millionen Albaner verlieren ihre Arbeitsplätze. Zwischen den Volksgruppen herrscht Apartheid. Die Albaner organisieren ihren Untergrundstaat. Hochschulen und Krankenhäuser entstehen. Ein eigenes Steuersystem wird geschaffen. Und während in Bosnien und Kroatien der Krieg tobt, halten sich die Kosovo-Albaner zurück. Ein Blutvergießen unvorstellbaren Ausmaßes wird damit verhindert. Aber auch für Nicht-Albaner wird das Leben in den ländlichen Regionen des Kosovo immer schwerer. Der Großteil der Serben gibt auf, sie verlassen die Unruheprovinz. Rugova und andere Intellektuelle setzen sich weiter für eine friedliche Lösung des Konfliktes ein. Wie sie fordern auch tausende Kosovaren eine unabhängige Republik. Autonomie mit Sonderstatus lehnen sie ab. 1995 beginnt die serbische Regierung erneut mit einer Umsiedlung im Kosovo. Kroatische und serbische Flüchtlinge werden in die Region gebracht. Die bis dahin unbekannte albanische Befreiungsarmee UÇK tritt in Erscheinung. Erste serbische Zivilisten und Polizisten sterben bei Vergeltungsaktionen. Der Konflikt eskaliert Anfang 1998. Serbische Sicherheitskräfte ermorden mindestens 80 Albaner. Die Kontaktgruppenstaaten USA, Russland, Italien, Frankreich, Großbritannien und Deutschland beschließen Sanktionen gegen Belgrad. Die EU-Außenminister entscheiden sich für Boykottmaßnahmen gegen Jugoslawien. Die NATO führt an der Grenze zum Kosovo ein 5-stündiges Luftmanöver durch, um Milosevic noch einmal die Stärke der Allianz zu demonstrieren. Er soll einlenken. Und Milosevic stimmt einer Wiederaufnahme von Gesprächen zwischen Serben und Kosovo-Albanern zu. Aber die Verhandlungen in Rambouillet scheitern. Die NATO beginnt am 24. März 1999 mit Luftangriffen.
Impressive, but this is the biggest bomb dropped yet. A 5,000-pound bunker buster on a tunnel where the Serbs were believed to be hiding aircraft and munitions. If it performed as advertised, this is what it looked like. With 10 more B-52s bound for a forward base in England, and with 325 more strikes planned for today, the air war is gathering momentum. When Serb police tried to set up camp in this factory, it was struck and struck again, leaving nothing but a smoking ruin. The Serb military is by no means broken, but as tanks get picked off one by one, U.S. intelligence officers see increasing evidence it is starting to sag.
A prisoner reported, for example, that 7 people had deserted from his platoon. My assessment is that there are increasing morale problems in the Serb military.
The air war that is lighting up the Yugoslav night is costing the U.S. about $40 million a day. And some precision-guided weapons, like the air-launched cruise missiles carried by B-52s and these satellite-guided bombs being loaded aboard B-2 stealth bombers, are beginning to run low. But Pentagon officials say there is no shortage of laser-guided bombs, and just yesterday at a port in Germany, a U.S. ship offloaded fresh supplies of bombs and missiles bound for Yugoslavia.
We are not anywhere near running out. We could fight this for months and months, if not years.
The question is, how long before Milosevic runs out? According to one intelligence estimate, he has enough fuel to keep fighting for about 4 to 6 more weeks. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Not yet finished, Segrani was originally planned as an overflow. So far, there's only room for 5,000, but already there are 8,000 here. Some in tents, some in the open. Only 6 latrine pits have been dug. Families wait patiently for the tents they've been assigned to be built. Ilyas Bachiri leads his children and grandchildren into their newly completed home. He's put a brave face on it. It's the only good news he's got for a desperately demoralized family.
We had a terrible trip. The children are so small, the women so tired. You know, they just said to me, kill us. How can I kill my own family, I said. I didn't know what to do.
There's been no pause in Milosevic's cleansing program. At the border, 20 more buses, all bound for Sigrani. It was another hot day. The stifling weather had taken its toll on the new arrivals.
The numbers game just isn't working out. Daily evacuation flights now average 1,300 people, but 7,500 crossed the border yesterday, setting a new trend the agencies are convinced will continue. And there's a new danger. Warmer weather coupled with the overcrowding has brought with it the very real threat of contagious disease.
We have a couple of different contagious cases that we actually caught early on, so they haven't spread. But the problem is that with this kind of weather, any kind of epidemic that starts will just immediately blow up into full-scale epidemic in the camps, which means that we have the potential of dysentery, cholera, hepatitis, and meningitis right on us.
This camp was the last chance. By next week, it'll be full to its planned capacity, even before it's been built. Andrew Wilson, Sky News, Sigrani camp in Macedonia.
Already 25 people, no room for her kin. 3 p.m. Jeladin comes back and breaks the bad news to his brother Nexmadin. No place in the camp for them and their children. Albanian TV told us we'd be taken care of, he says, as he tries again with his seemingly useless papers to get in. When we leave them, they were making plans to have the children sleep in the car. The grown-ups plan to sleep on the ground.
To be overwhelmed by a new exodus. More than 10,000 Kosovans fled to Albania yesterday alone. Aid workers are warning of a potential disaster.
The tented capacity in Kukish in the camps is already pretty full. Some of the community centres which had housed people before have been closed. They're going to have to be reopened. We've been living on a knife edge, and we continue to live on a knife edge.
The UN says this is the result of a new attempt to empty the Kosovan town of Prizren of its population. Tens of thousands could be on the road behind them. John Lyne, BBC News.
Stories this Saturday morning, and the NATO airstrikes against Serbia have continued overnight. The official Serbian news agency said the town of Pančevo, south of Belgrade, was hit. It also said a bridge in northern Montenegro was struck, killing 4 people. These are the main developments. More than 2,000 US Marines are to be deployed in Albania in the next few days. The Marines would be expected to be in the first wave of ground troops if an invasion of Kosovo was launched.
The former US presidential candidate Jesse Jackson, who's in Belgrade, has met the 3 US soldiers captured by Yugoslav forces. He's due to meet President Milosevic today in an attempt to secure their release.
The United States will accept 400 Kosovo refugees next week, the first group of 20,000 it's agreed to take. It's decided to speed up the process because of the pressure on Macedonia and Albania in dealing with the refugees.
Meanwhile, to arrive in Albania, claim they've been driven out as Serb forces ethnically cleanse the southern city of Prizren. There are many reports of new atrocities. At one stage, 1,000 people an hour were leaving Kosovo. As Peter Sharp reports from Marina in Albania, the poorest country in Europe is struggling to cope.
The floodgates opened again. Not since the first desperate days of this crisis had there been such a concentrated influx of refugees into Albania. Crossing at the rate of 1,000 an hour, they streamed across the border at Marina until you thought there couldn't be anyone left in southern Kosovo.
They told us they came with machine guns. They said 2 hours, in some cases 45 minutes, in others, out, 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 otherwise you're dead. And they jumped out. They retained some people, but most of the others just out.
These people were mostly from the town of Prizren, only 18 kilometers from the frontier. It once had a population of 130,000. Very few are left, they said.
It's an entire community. It's the bakers, it's the doctors, it's the school teachers, it's the lawyers, it's the community. You know, it's like packing up a small town in Central America, in the central United States, or a small town in France, and just everybody saying, okay, 3 minutes, you're out of here.
And there were no exceptions. Even the very sick were sent on their way. The line of those moving slowly out of their homeland was said to stretch back 10 miles.
Albania's capacity to absorb these people has been incredible. They've already taken in more than 380,000 refugees. That's more than 10% of its entire population.
Journalists who visited the scene said the bus was split in two. Bodies were strewn around the riverbed under the bridge. NATO has neither confirmed nor denied responsibility. The Yugoslav news agency Tanjug says the bridge was attacked a second time 1 hour later. Medical staff at the scene were injured, it said. It's also reported from Belgrade that the Reverend Jesse Jackson says President Milosevic will free the 3 American soldiers captured by Yugoslav forces on the border with Macedonia a month ago. The official Yugoslav news agency said President Milosevic would hand them over to the American civil rights leader. He met the Yugoslav president for 3 hours on Saturday. Well, let's get the latest on both of those developing stories. I'm now joined from Belgrade live by our
news agency, which has carried reports, it says, of eyewitnesses. As you've seen in the pictures, it really does seem that the bus is really quite a tangled wreck as a result of this missile hitting it. It really does look quite a harrowing incident. Apparently, at least 23 people have been killed. Eyewitnesses have spoken of charred bodies still trapped in the wreckage. Clearly a quite awful task for the emergency services there in Kosovo to deal with.
Jackie, there are some journalists who have been on the scene, partly by coincidence. Are they able to clarify whether these were civilians or whether this might have been a military bus?
What we've had told so far is that the bus was in fact a regular passenger bus. It was running the route between the southern Serbian city of Niš and the Kosovo capital Pristina. They even gave us the bus number. It was apparently an express bus service. So all the indications we're getting is that these were civilians, although nothing has actually been said officially about the possibility of whether there could in fact have been military people on the bus as well.
We have to underline that NATO at the moment is investigating this, is ringing round its air bases, trying to find what might have happened. Is there also this other report about a second missile?
That, again, we're only having from eyewitnesses and journalists on the spot. They said that apparently a second wave of attacks happened about an hour later. And on that occasion, they say a missile hit an ambulance. The crew had come to the bridge to try to help the victims of the first attack. And apparently in this reported second attack, a member of one of the ambulance crews was wounded.
Now, Jackie, can we move on to the 3-hour meeting?
The options for some sort of diplomatic solution to the conflict. I mean, it was clear that in a 3-hour conversation with President Milosevic, he would have been talking about more than simply the fate of the prisoners. But of course, that question of the 3 American prisoners of war really was key to his visit. And obviously, it's a huge personal success for him and for the other members of his delegation that President Milosevic has agreed to release the men.
On the broader front, is it clear whether the Reverend Jackson was able to give an extra push after Viktor Chernomyrdin, the Russian delegate, was in town yesterday?
I think it certainly helped. I mean, the Reverend Jackson has described this decision of President Milosevic as a very significant gesture that cannot be ignored. So it would appear that he is going to obviously be taking this message back to the United States, that this must be taken into account when planning future political moves towards a diplomatic solution to the conflict. But as it stands, with the mission of Viktor Chernomyrdin over, there haven't really been any very encouraging signs so far that the West is likely to accept the 7-point plan that Mr. Viktor Chernomyrdin is going to be presenting in London and Paris in the coming days.
Now, Jackie, this meeting today, this 3-hour meeting, of course, followed yesterday the meeting between Reverend Jesse Jackson and the 3 soldiers. He saw the 3 soldiers yesterday. Is there any suggestion that any deal was done?
I don't think that Reverend Jackson would have been in a position to do any deals. I mean, we're seeing him here praying with the soldiers yesterday. He said that they appeared to be in quite good shape, although they were being held in solitary confinement. But as I said, he came to Belgrade on a personal mission. Both NATO and the United States had explained to him that they could offer no guarantees as to his safety and the safety of those other delegates in this large American team who came to Belgrade. So it was a risk for him, both politically and purely from safety point of view, and it would appear that those risks have now paid off, and the resident...
Just thanks everybody for all your thoughts and all your prayers. They've been needed and they're a big help. Hope we can all see the States again soon. And say thank you to all y'all in person.
Those are the 3 US soldiers who are working in a UN force on the border between Macedonia and Kosovo when they were seized or disappeared about a month ago. Jackie...
Travelling from Niš to the Kosovan capital of Pristina when it was attacked, half of it falling from the bridge it was driving over. About an hour later, eyewitnesses say the plane struck again, this time hitting an ambulance that had come to the aid of the victims of the first attack. If it's confirmed this was a NATO attack, this will be a severe embarrassment for the alliance. At its daily briefing in Brussels, NATO seemed unsure how to react to the reports.
I don't have any evidence of this kind of accident. But we will check that and I'll come back on that tomorrow.
Seen the report?
No, I have not seen this report, but I have seen 2 other reports on a bridge attack, and we also do not have the evidence of that, and I will come back to you on that tomorrow during my briefing.
These rare pictures were shot inside Kosovo itself by Greek television. They show the damage NATO says it's now inflicting on the Yugoslav military. In Montenegro, evidence of attacks on Thursday night. NATO says it ran 600 sorties on Friday for the second 24-hour period in a row. The British Ministry of Defence this morning showed cockpit video of an attack on what it said was a railway bridge. By attacking communication links, NATO says it's isolating Serb forces in Kosovo.
Every day, Milosevic is less able to stay in touch with his forces and to keep them supplied. Every day, the Serb forces in Kosovo are more isolated from their commanders in Belgrade. Every day, the Belgrade regime is more isolated from the world.
I volontari della Caritas parlano chiaro. Attenti, la situazione è fuori controllo. Allora, via dalla fabbrica del tabacco, via chi può, con tutti i mezzi possibili.
Forse posso mandare via di qui, è meglio. Che qui, insomma, sembra una vita... Non lo so, non c'è parole da dire, davvero.
Ancora prima di cominciare, ammette il generale Henry Shelton, di passaggio ad Aviano, una tappa importante nel programma di visite alle basi alleate in Europa. Davanti alle telecamere il capo delle forze armate americane ribadisce la compattezza all'interno dei paesi NATO, si dice soddisfatto dell'andamento delle operazioni, riafferma il ruolo strategico della base pordenonese, liquida l'ipotesi di un intervento di terra affermando: fin dall'inizio avevamo programmato i bombardamenti aerei, continueremo in questa direzione. Aquiloni, palloncini, mongolfiere di carta contro i cacciabombardieri, era questa la simbolica sfida lanciata da alcuni gruppi pacifisti, sfida bloccata però davanti ai cancelli dalle forze dell'ordine che non l'hanno ritenuta per la verità troppo simbolica, materiale che, è stato spiegato, avrebbe potuto creare seri problemi agli aerei in decollo, addirittura intasarne le prese d'aria. Il lancio non è stato pertanto consentito.
Druk in het vluchtelingenkamp waar Utina sinds een tijdje woont. Veel kinderen vervelen zich. Ze lopen maar wat rond, voetballen met een pantoffel of roetje van de trapleuningen. De directeur van het vluchtelingenkamp hoopt nog meer scholen te vinden waar kinderen uit Kosovo les kunnen krijgen.
Of course they have suffered the situation, but we have engaged ourselves and them to try to have a high level in the condition, of course, we have now.
Omdat Utina in hun klas zit, zingen en dansen de kinderen speciale liedjes uit Kosovo. Zo voelt ze zich thuis in Albanië.
They keep coming. 1,000 people each and every hour before nightfall yesterday. Today, exactly the same. A whole city on the move. North Albania's border guards have seen nothing like it, and every entry card filled in shows the vast majority of this new influx of refugees is from one place.
Prizren, one of Kosovo's largest cities, had a pre-war population of over 100,000. No one knows the figure now, but the city's hemorrhaging people at an alarming rate.
There are just a few families left, says this man. The city's been cleaned out. We're all here, over the border. Prizren is often described as one of the Balkans' most beautiful cities, with a rich Muslim heritage dating back centuries. The legacy of that past, its Muslim population, is now being ripped from its roots.
And you look across at this border and you say, my God, this is 1999, this is Europe. The picture there could be 1945. Nothing has changed.
And every new border crossing means more pressure on refugee facilities. These people will spend the coming nights in this open field until space can be found in the nearby camp. It could be a long wait. Eyewitnesses say the Serbian army is stockpiling weapons and tanks in Prizren in the event of a land war. While NATO says it isn't preparing for a ground assault, these people are proof the Serbs are. Clive Myrie, BBC News, in northern Albania.
Itself show the damage NATO is inflicting on the Yugoslav military. More damage too in Montenegro. NATO says it launched 600 sorties on Friday. It believes it's now starting to isolate the Yugoslav forces operating in Kosovo from their commanders in Belgrade.
Serbian television said at least 40 people died when a NATO missile hit this bus on a bridge north of Pristina. The broadcasters said passengers were incinerated when the bus was cut in two. Part of it plunged from the bridge, scattering bodies, while the rest of the vehicle remained on a span. They said the bus was an express service plying between the Kosovo town of Niš and the capital. According to the Serbs, an ambulance was also hit and a doctor wounded in the head. The report of the attack couldn't be independently confirmed, and NATO said it had no knowledge of the incident. More American B-52s have arrived in Britain to add to the squadrons of heavy bombers attacking Yugoslavia. They've been called for by NATO's Supreme Commander. But because America is running out of cruise missiles, the B-52s will be armed with so-called dumb bombs, which are not laser-guided. Fears have been raised that dropping unguided bombs from high altitude could mean more accidental civilian casualties. The Americans have promised to minimize the risk. Gary Lloyd, Sky News.
Some of the Coptic Albanians already living in Macedonia. Sky's Andrew Wilson has been investigating how and why the recognized routes are being ignored.
Another location we were asked not to identify. After a 19-hour walk through the mountains, 900 refugees picked their way down into an ethnic Albanian village in Macedonia. The local network grows stronger every day. Bread and milk are passed round, and in an enclosed courtyard, the travellers rest while homes are found for them. The UNHCR are compliant. With the camps overflowing, they can only offer food and blankets anyway. Some of this group were from Serbia, others from Kosovo, escaping brutality, military service, ethnic persecution. Within an hour of their arrival, the refugees are on their way to local homes. But with some 1,200 now coming in here every day, the villages, like the camps, are getting stretched. Their existence now will become one of secrecy, hidden by their new friends from the Macedonian authorities. And in one such house we found 14-year-old Liridona. She and 4 brothers and sisters were orphaned by the Serbs. Her grandparents said she wouldn't talk, but in a sudden flood, she told us her story.
We were walking through the woods. The Serbs asked where the husbands were. They rounded up the women. They asked mother where my father was. She said he was dead. They started to beat her, and then, in front of us, they cut her throat, along with 3 other women from our village.
4-year-old Chendrin has called for his mother every night for 2 months, but all they can show him is a faded photograph on the wall. The hospitality is here.
Free, and you can embrace.
As if they could hardly believe it, they edged forward, nervously at first, crossing the floor at Belgrade's military media center in their first steps to freedom, as they embraced Jesse Jackson and his multi-faith delegation that had successfully sought their release.
Yeah, Mom? I'm out. I can't wait to see you too. Love you too, Mom.
After more than a month in captivity, the 3 soldiers made brief and emotional phone calls to home before being shepherded away for the drive to the border under police escort.
Mr. Jackson, welcome to Belgrade.
Their freedom came the day after Jackson had 2 hours of talks with Slobodan Milosevic. After joining hands in prayer, the Yugoslav president unexpectedly ordered their release. Jackson, who undertook his mission against US government advice, said he hoped this would trigger a break in the diplomatic deadlock. The 3 soldiers were caught in the campaign's first week when they strayed across Macedonia's border into Kosovo. Red Cross officials said they'd been well treated, though kept in solitary confinement. In a night when the Yugoslav capital was spared from air raids, Jesse Jackson spoke by phone to President Clinton, who expressed his gratitude. But relief at their safe return in America is not shared here, where there's more concern over the civilian death toll that rises almost daily. Jeff Mead, Sky News, Belgrade.
NATO has admitted it hit a bus in Kosovo. Serb state television said 60 people died in the attack, 12 miles north of the province's capital, Pristina. Meanwhile, viewers have been shown the first pictures of an American F-16 jet the Serbs claim to have shot down.
The American jet was shot down at about 1 a.m. today near Shabac in northwest Serbia. Serb television showed fragments from the downed jet, including wings and undercarriage. In some shots, bullet holes were clearly visible. NATO said the pilot ejected safely and was picked up by an Allied search and rescue team. He's now being debriefed at a NATO airbase. The news came hours after NATO admitted one of its planes had bombed a bridge in Kosovo, accidentally hitting a civilian bus. The express service travelling between Pristina and Niš was cut in half by the missile, only the rear end remaining on the bridge. Independent journalists on the scene reported seeing 15 bodies trapped in the section of wreckage blown into the gully below. The Serb news agency Tanjug claimed an emergency ambulance was hit when Allied jets attacked the same bridge again just an hour later. NATO apologized for the fatal error, but insisted the Luzane Bridge was a key north-south supply route for Serb military and special police. The air campaign continues, NATO jets flying more than 600 sorties for the second 24-hour period in succession. An oil refinery in Yugoslavia's second city, Novi Sad, was in flames after being struck by 7 missiles. A technical institute in the center of Chachuk was also hit. Paul Brennan, Sky News.
And joining us now.
The 3 soldiers wiped away tears as they spoke to friends and family on the telephone. The Reverend Jackson